Hello there and welcome to another episode of the OUA Basketball Show. My name's Griffin Porter. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Friday. It's the first day of the U Sports Men's Final 8. We had the first day of the Women's Final 8 yesterday. We'll get into that after the interview that we have today with a very special guest. But first, why don't we do a quick recap of the games that happened last weekend in the OUA. And there were just two, folks. The Critelli Cup Final and the Wilson Cup Final both took place at Toronto Metropolitan University, both against Carleton University. I was there. I was in the building. What a building to be in. That TMU crowd, the fans, lots of Carleton fans there as well, providing an incredible atmosphere. All the staff at Toronto Metropolitan University did a fantastic job. So congratulations to them on a great tournament run. We'll start with the Critelli Cup Final, which was a defensive masterclass from the Toronto Metropolitan University Bold. I mean, spoiler alert, we're going to be saying that again for the Wilson Cup Final, but it's just sort of hard to put into words how smothering that TMU team was in that game. Anytime that the Ravens tried to get anything in the paint specifically, there were just arms everywhere, limbs everywhere. A really impressive showing from the Bold and their bigs. Miriam Kone also incredible in that game on both ends. 22 points. She had one stretch in the third quarter where she just completely took over the game. Really impressive from the all-star Miriam Kone. And, of course, Haley Franco-Derick had a fantastic game as well. I mentioned her defensive presence. She leads that paint presence there for the TMU Bold. She had 9 points and 12 rebounds in the win. The Bold capture the Critelli Cup. Congratulations to them. Very well deserved. And then we jump over to the Wilson Cup Final, which was a lot of the same thing. A really good Carleton team comes into TMU's gym and just gets completely shut down. The Ravens could not do any of the things that they like to do in this one. Their offense was completely taken away by the TMU defense. Aubrey Dory-Havens, the first team all-star, shut down by TMU. He has a really rough game. 7 turnovers, only 3 points for the all-star. And on the other end, TMU not exactly dominant offensively. They only shoot 39% from the field. They only shoot 4 of 22 from 3. But they're so good and so strong defensively that they're able to hang on to the win. And this one, even though Carleton kept it close for most of the night, it never really felt like the Ravens were right there. Every time that they tried to make a run, they would get within 5 or so, and then TMU would pull back out to a 10 to 15 point lead. 66 to 56 is the final in that one. Marjock Okado gets 18 points. Aaron Rhooms 16 on 5 of 21 shooting for the Bold. So TMU is a double champion for the first time in 10 years. 2016, the last time that they captured the Critelli and the Wilson on the same day, so isn't that fitting? And in order to celebrate that, as well as his second consecutive OUA Player of the Year award, we have a great guest for you today. He was our first guest of the year, and right now he's our most recent. Welcome back to the show, Aaron Rhooms. My guest today is the two-time OUA Men's Player of the Year, and he is now a Wilson Cup champion. Aaron Rhooms, thank you so much for coming once again on the OUA Basketball Show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, my friend, we talked to you at the beginning of the season, and here we are talking to you at the end. It's been a crazy year for you. Why don't we start with the individual here? Your second consecutive Player of the Year award puts you in a very exclusive club. How did that feel to get that news that you were being recognized like that again?
It felt amazing. I think the biggest thing for me was just very grateful. As you said, it's been a crazy year, and I've just tried to do my part so that my team is successful. I'm grateful that we're able to get the job done. So it means a lot, definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. And like you said, you were able to get the job done. Boy, oh boy, were you ever. You are now a Wilson Cup champion for the first time in your career. I was there on Saturday at TMU. You were able to do it in front of the home fans. As the final seconds tick away there, and it hits you that you finally accomplished this after your incredible career, what is possibly going through your mind in that moment?
Probably everything, I'm not gonna lie. There was a lot of emotions I was feeling, you know, but I think the biggest thing was gratitude, you know, like, it's a long time coming. I've been there for 5 years now, and, you know, we've gotten close every year, but we've never been able to get through completely, so being finally able to do it meant a lot. Um, and it was great for the program. You know, it was great to do it in front of the home crowd, you know, alongside the women's team as well. So it was a really special moment. You know what I mean? So again, we're just grateful to have gotten the job done.
Yeah, we'll get to that because I want to ask you about the Critelli and the Wilson at the same time. But first, I noticed when the buzzer went, obviously Bedlam takes over the anatomy there, but you go straight for the stands. You make a beeline there. What did that mean to have to be able to celebrate with people that are close to you?
Oh, it meant the world. It meant the world because they've been with me through every step of the journey. You know, even before I got to Rice and TMU, they were there. So it's just to have them there and I guess see the end per se of my chapter here at TMU. You know, it meant the world to have them. And you know, my mom, you know, she was almost in tears, and just to have her there, it was really special.
Yeah, it seemed very special. I think everyone in the room was very happy for you there. Why don't we talk a bit about basketball itself instead of all the emotional stuff here? That was a defensive masterclass that you and your Bold put on in that Wilson Cup game. I think we knew going into the game that you and Carleton were both excellent
Yeah,
defensive teams. We knew it was going to
definitely.
be a tough, scrappy game. How did you prep? Were you happy with the way that game went?
Most definitely. You know, we spend a lot of time prepping for Carlton, knowing that Carlton is, you know, number one, like defensive wise, and then like they've had a lot of experience being in that position, you know, in terms of trying to win a championship. So going up against that kind of caliber of a team, we had to put a lot of prep in, and we were able to execute. So that was what I was really impressed by and really proud of about my guys. And you know, we had to key in on a few players, not to, you know, let them get off, and I think we did our job.
Yeah, well, yeah, job definitely done. That's for sure. It was very interesting sitting in those stands. Both the Critelli Cup and the Wilson Cup were TMU versus Carleton. For much of the 21st century,
Yeah,
Carleton has been the basketball school in Canada, and the
yeah,
women's program, especially in the last 10
yeah,
years, has been more successful than the men. So it's really both
yeah,
of these programs.
yeah,
And you guys are there, and both games are in your building, and you win both of these championships. What
yeah.
do you think as your time at the school comes to an end? Like, how is TMU basketball? Where is it sitting right now?
I mean, I think we're definitely on the come up back to where, you know, I feel like we should be. You know, we got two talented teams here at TMU, both on the men's and women's side, and I think it puts us in a position to now like we can build on going forward for the years to come. You know, next season and you know the seasons to come, and like just to have that as an inspiration to be like, hey, like it's possible, you know, sure it didn't happen in my first 2, 3, or 4 years, but you know, it's definitely, you know, achievable. So I hope that, you know, with the teams to follow and you know, my young guys on the team, it's like, hey, like we're capable of achieving a championship. And so I hope that, you know, each year now that's what they're striving for.
100%. Well, yeah, the path has been laid. You're talking to us from Calgary right now. You're there getting ready for your first ever Final Eight experience. I know you just got there yesterday, so you haven't gotten fully into the full Final Eight experience yet so far. But what are you expecting out of this tournament? You've finally gotten there. What are you hoping for?
I'm expecting, you know, good competition. You know, obviously, I've never competed in the national championships, but I've definitely, you know, seen games and, you know, heard about the teams that come to this tournament, and they're of good caliber. So I'm looking for, you know, good competition. You know, good energy. You know, a lot of attention to be on these games, and I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, you know, I'm really excited to not only for me to be here, but for my team to be here because I think that you know we belong here.
Absolutely, you do. That is 100% for sure. And of course, now you're going to have to play some non OUA teams. You do a little bit of that in the preseason, but you got UBC coming up here in the first round. How do you prep for that in such a short time frame, facing these teams that you've never seen all season?
I think It's a matter of just being diligent, like, yes, we only have a few days to prep, so that's why, film and, whatever on-court time we get, we have to be attention to detail. Recognize that, yeah, this is, an OUA team that we played like once or twice already in the season. It's a whole new team. So again, just paying attention to details, knowing who, are their key players and, going from there.
Absolutely. Just one more before I let you go here.
No worries.
Are you going to be able to enjoy the experience of the Final Eight, of the gala and all that, or is it all basketball right now? Is that the only thing that's going through the mind?
Oh man, I want to try and take in some of the experience for sure. Obviously you want to come up here and lock in on the basketball side of thing, but at the end of the day, it's also an experience. And I've never been through this tournament, so I definitely want to take it in as much as I can. But at the same time, keeping the main thing the main thing.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, have an amazing final couple games of the season here. 3 wins away from history. So wishing you guys all the best. And
Appreciate
thanks so
you.
much for taking the time once again. Have a great week.
My pleasure. You too.
Thanks again to Aaron for coming on the show. Fantastic to talk to him as always. And let me just say, being at TMU this weekend, watching those games, when you talk to people around that building, people who are connected to the program, people who are just fans, it's very rare that you see a player as beloved as Aaron, and I think that talks about the person that he is as much as the player that he is. He's just really had an incredible impact on that school. So, U Sports Final 8 is off to a bit of a disappointing start if you're an OUA basketball fan. The women's first round was yesterday. That was on Thursday. Carleton suffering a tough loss to the University of New Brunswick to send them to the consolation bracket. And our other OUA representative, the TMU Bold, the number 1 seed, who looked so dominant all year, who completely shut down the Ravens to win the Critelli Cup, who blew out the Windsor Lancers, they lose to the host team, the number 8 seed, the University of Laval. It's tough to believe watching it yesterday. My jaw was on the floor. A massive tip of the hat to the University of Laval. Shout out RSEQ. Whoever runs the RSEQ basketball show, I guess they got one over on me this time. But yeah, just a really incredible season for both Carleton and TMU. I know that TMU in particular is going to be disappointed. They went into that Final 8 feeling like they were the best team in the country, or right there with Saskatchewan for the best team in the country, who had to get the at-large berth because they suffered an upset as well. But it comes to a disappointing end for TMU, but I still think a ton to be proud of for the Bold. A Critelli Cup championship is an incredible achievement, and these are the perils of a one-game knockout tournament. It's tough. So a tip of the cap to the TMU Bold and the Carleton Ravens on being fantastic on fantastic seasons and being great contributors and representatives of the OUA on the national stage. The men's first round gets underway today. The games are probably on right now as you're watching this. If I have my upload timing correct, TMU goes live at 2 p.m. They're facing a opponent from CanWest, the UBC Thunderbirds, and then Carleton goes live a little later in the day. If you're looking for your OUA representation, hopefully we can pick up a couple wins there as revenge for yesterday. But for now, folks, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the OUA Basketball Show. We'll have one more episode coming your way next week for the end of year. We'll recap the Final 8 in a little more depth. Hopefully we can talk about a great success on the men's side. Hopefully we'll have one more guest for you. We can talk about all our award winners and all of that. So thank you all so much for tuning in this week to another episode of the OUA Basketball Show. Enjoy the Final 8. Make sure you tune in on CBC Gem or the CBC Sports YouTube. If you miss a game, you can watch them on demand on the CBC Sports YouTube, so make sure that you check that out because it's the best basketball of the year. You're not going to want to miss a minute. Thank you all again so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.